And joining us at the roundtable this week is Dr. Patricia O'Gorman from Saranac Lake, who is a psychologist and a top-selling author. Welcome. Nice to have you here with us today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
And we are also joined by my colleague, Jack LeDuc. Welcome.
Thank you.
Dr. O'Gorman, you are a clinical psychologist in private practice. You are noted for your work with women and trauma and substance abuse, and you've become quite well known across the country for your books that focus on empowering women.
Yes, I have 3 books out of my 9 that focus exclusively on women.
And this has really become has this been the focus of your practice for a number of years? And did this make it an easy transition to write the book?
That's a great question. What we know is women tend to use psychotherapy more than men. So de facto, yes, I've seen more women than men, even though I've seen a fair amount of men. And what my book is about, the Girly Thoughts 10-Day Detox Plan, is my giving a name to that toxic inner dialogue that women have. As one of my reviewers called it, our inner trash talk. And so therefore women can have a way of wrapping their head around that it's not just them having that. And how I came to that is, yes, every woman comes in and she thinks it's her. And she thinks she is to this or to that or to whatever. And that's why her life is, having problems. And yes, her life is having problems, but it's not because she's 5 pounds overweight. It's not because she's too short or tall. It's not because she's too young or old. It's not because she's really too aggressive at work if she's doing her job. That's all the girly thoughts. So I gave a purposely obnoxious name. I want everyone to know that. This is an obnoxious name, Girly Thoughts. People go, ugh, but it's memorable and it's catchy. So we can have a way of saying, this is a girly thought, this is really not me. This is really not defining my reality. This is this thought I'm having that I'm fat because I've eaten too much over the holidays. And now I'm fat and unattractive. No, you maybe gained 5 pounds. That doesn't make you fat and unattractive. But that's, as women, what we walk around feeling and get depressed about.
And a friend of yours.
Go ahead, Tom.
A friend of yours, a colleague, another psychologist coined the phrase.
Yes, he did. We were having this conversation, and his name is Tom Lund. He's a psychologist and also an author. And he said, girly thoughts. And I felt like the earth shifted. Tom, what did you say? And I asked him, I said, do you want to do anything with this? And he said, look at me, Pat, I'm a guy. I'm not going to do anything. He said, you have at it. And I have found it so empowering for women, empowering for me, and empowering for men to actually have a way of encapsulating this unique thing women do that trips us all up.
Well, men are very confused at what women do.
Absolutely. That's why the next book is A Man's Guide to Girly Thoughts. I announce it in here. Yes, because it is confusing. It's like, why are you so upset? Well, because she's probably having a girly thought. Not because you have done something, maybe you've done something, but you're getting this big reaction because it's falling into this pit that, she has been marketed to about this corporate image of beauty. I mean, that's really what women are dealing with. It's a corporate image of beauty. And it's really very narrow, and it's all digitally altered. So,
explain that, Pat, a little bit.
Well, what is happening is we have this image of what a beautiful woman is. And you and I were talking before, and the models we're looking at, many are 13, 14 years old. They're not even, mature women, they're young women. Their images have been digitally changed. It's nothing for Vogue to take 10 inches off a waist. A human body can't stand with a 10-inch waist, but to make the line of the dress more beautiful. But as women, we're constantly bombarded by these images that say, this is what beautiful is. And unless you can step back, which my book helps you do, and say, that's not real, or why am I buying into that?
But
you
they
get
do
upset.
buy into it?
Yeah, we all buy into it because we're basically inundated by it. We're inundated by these images constantly. One of my favorite ads, and I don't know if it's currently on TV right now, is this, very handsome guy, clearly in his 60s. He's skydiving, he's water skiing, and then he's surrounded, at the end of his episodes by these teenagers who are Googling him. It's like, we don't have similar ads for mature women who do great things and have young, adoring men around them. And, you know, when we see that, we repel. But that is, you know, that is the image. And, you know, you keep getting that over and over and over and over again. You're raised by fairy tales that say, you know, beautiful princesses have to be rescued, not by the prince, but also by 7 dwarfs. I mean, it sends a message. And to push out, we need to really, you know, say, okay.
It's a physical thing.
It's physical, it's, you know, it's cultural, and if we can identify it, we can do something with it. You know, as human beings, we do a really good job when we have a name for something. You know, then we can debate it, we can talk about it, we can share about it, whether that's, you know, addiction or whether that's, you know, global warming or whatever, but it gives us a way of encapsulating that. That's what Girly Thoughts are, a way of encapsulating that and saying, that's what this thing is. Let's talk about it. Let's do something about it. But let's not internalize it and feel deficient because we're not measuring up. Because that leads to depression. That leads to some women anesthetizing these feelings. You know, it's not a good road.
And we do hear on occasion, there will be a model, there will be a celebrity, someone who will take a stand and say, I don't want my photo photoshopped. Right. I don't want you to doctor my cover photograph. If from time to time, maybe a supermodel will do that. But is it happening enough where it's resonating with a lot of women, or are they still bombarded with it to the point where they don't think they fit the mold and they have the self-doubt?
Well, it's every time there is a great groundswell, it makes the news. And there was one recently on change.org, 3 students in the UK who started, I have a blog on this on my website, which is patriciaogorman.com, and started targeting Victoria's Secret's ad that were the perfect body, and got Victoria's Secret to stop using the word perfect. Which is huge, I think, you know, and so it takes a lot. In Teen Vogue magazine, the models are doctored. What Teen Vogue, under pressure from, again, I think it was a 12-year-old in Bangor, Maine, started this whole effort. At least they're not doctoring the photos of their, you know, they kind of spotlight a teenager of the month kind of thing. They're not doctoring those photos, but the model photos are all doctored. So, and what this young girl in Maine said, you know, when she started this is, these girls don't look like me, and they don't look like my friends, you know. So she was able to do the disconnect. You know, if every girl did that, we'd have a different culture.
And the problem is it starts so early. I mean, it's not only young teens, it's even younger now where they're bombarded with this, and many of them question, why don't I look like this?
Right, and the answer to that is that it's not so much in the Northeast, but in other parts of the country, we're finding Sweet 16 parties at spas where girls start getting Botox. And
at 16?
At 16. At 16. And again, it's not so much a Northeast phenomena, but it is an issue in other parts of the country. There's also something I address in my book, which is called sexy girly voice, or voice upping. Which is girls around age 11 and 12 realizing that when they, with puberty, when their voice changes, they're not so cute. So they keep their voice really cute. And they do that in college, and they do that on the job. And everything ends in a question mark, and it's disempowering. It's a disempowering thing to do.
Why do they do it?
Well, because, you know, as young girls and young boys, we want to be acceptable. You know, we want to be the way we're supposed to be, you know, and these images that come in about what is an acceptable female is not just what's impacting our adults, it's impacting our young girls as well. And so I had a mother recently tell me that her 4-year-old announced to her that she was fat. And she looked at her 4-year-old and she said, my God, she's not fat. Where's she getting that from? And she realized that she's been walking around the house saying she was fat. Now, this mother was not fat, by the way. And, but our kids pick up what we send to them. They pick up the images we give them. And I'm not saying it's one-to-one, but it's, if you walk around hating your body, you're not teaching your daughter what to love in her body. If she's surrounded by images of a beauty that is what she's supposed to be, because as young girls we're supposed to be beautiful. You know, young boys are supposed to be strong. We don't say they're beautiful, but young girls are supposed to be beautiful. So what does that mean? And every little girl's going to figure that out for herself. And girly thoughts are that internalization that, you know, she's not quite beautiful enough, and it's like this rat race that women tend to be on at all ages. I mean, it starts early and it continues.
You've listed a number of girly thoughts.
Yeah, in my book, Girly Thought 10-Day Detox Plan, I actually have 16. What I do is I break them out over 10 days. Because it's a 10-day plan, and each day is a different part of a woman's life. So I talk about body image, I talk about financial issues. I had a conversation a couple of weeks ago with two women, very, very different. One is an executive director of an organization I'm affiliated with, and the other was a girl in my clinical office in Saranac Lake. And I had the same conversation with both of them. The executive director told me she wanted to get an advanced degree, and I said, are you thinking about an MBA, because she's running a nonprofit? And she said, no, I'm no good with math. I'm thinking about social work. The 15-year-old in my office, I said, well, what do you want to major in? And she said, I want to major in art. And I said, well, you know, why art? She said, because I'm no good with math. That's a girly thought.
She might have been good in math.
Well, the thing is, if you're a really good artist, you know, like if you're a good hockey player, it's all about angles.
Right.
You know, you really have to have a lot of understanding, even though we don't interpret it that way. But that's a girly thought. I'm no good with math. And there's a wonderful website called Engineer Your Life, which is designed for girls to get them interested in engineering. It's designed for middle school girls because girls grow up thinking they're no good in math. I mean, we have these cultural thoughts which as a society are not helpful to us. I mean, we could use all the engineers right now we can possibly get. So this is how this falls out. And so each day is a different sector. I talk about work, I talk about financial, I talk about parenting, I talk about falling in love, and I talk about sex, because there are a lot of girly thoughts around sex too.
There are some schools that are going back to girls in one class,
Yes.
boys in another class,
Yeah.
good or bad?
I think there's some advantages to both ways. But certainly when girls reach puberty, and what we find is that a girl who, let's say, is on the soccer team in elementary school and then hits puberty and then drops off the soccer team and then becomes a fashionista, that's not necessarily the best thing for her. And the reason is, and this research is really plugging it into the work environment, is that at work, women tend to take things personally. You know, if you've grown up playing sports, it's hard to take every defeat personally. Eventually you learn it's not about you, it's about the team, it's about the other team, it's bigger than who you are. At work, that really results in women feeling they can't take certain risks, because what if they fail? Where boys come into work and they're not so worried about failing. You know, young men come into work, and so they're not so worried. So therefore, these decisions that are made early really truncate some social learning that plays out later. And it's all, you know, and it becomes all what I call girly thoughts, you know, this kind of self-defeating dialogue. I can't do that. What if I'm not liked? Well, you know, you may not be liked. I mean, Susan, you know, Sheryl Sandberg talks about the fact if you're going to be a successful woman, you probably won't be liked. So, you know, and
Is that true?
Yeah. Yeah, that is. There was a very recent study. Again, I have a blog on this one. This one I thought was amazing. There was a study recently, this spring, summer, of performance evaluations on executives from Fortune 500 companies, you know, managers and so on. And they looked at just the language in the performance evaluations. And over 70% of the women had a negative comment in there about their personality. May I put you gentlemen on the spot and ask you, how many of the men had a negative comment about their personality in their performance evaluation at a Fortune 500 company?
I'd say
20%?
Oh, less. Probably 5% or less?
You're 2%.
2%.
70% versus 2%. It's real. It's real. But what I say to women is, look, you exercise yourself, your body, and it hurts. You have to stretch. Well, at work, you're going to have to exercise your power, and it's going to hurt, and you'll stretch. And, you know, work is work. It's not, you know, a popularity contest. It's not, you know, where you go to make friends. It's where you go to succeed in another area of your life. And even though you may have that and you may be doing that, emotionally, it takes a toll on women, and I talk about that's a girly thought. And if we can identify it, then we can wrap our mind around it and get some support from other women and plow through and do what it is we need to do.
So you're saying there is no Dorian Gray?
Oh, yes, that would be nice. I wish that movie would come back. It would probably terrify everybody.
And you call this the detox plan. These are steps. These are tools that will take time.
Yes, yes. And I call it a detox plan because it is very toxic. And you really have to kind of start crunching it and pushing it and identifying this as a girly thought. I tell for each girly thought why you have it, so that women will not think it's just them and they're crazy. Women, you know, feel very, you know, attacked by these things. So it's like, yeah, it's not you. So I say why you have this girly thought, and then I tell you how to change it. Each of these 16 thoughts.
Besides your book, how do you get this message out to the young people?
Well, I have my blog that, you know, goes around the country. I speak at different venues, you know, corporate venues, schools, yes, and places like this, which is great.
And how about classrooms, teachers?
Teachers, it's a really important message for teachers to hear as well as their students to hear, because teachers are impacted by this too, and teachers often don't know what to do. In fact, in my book, I talk about an article that was in the Atlantic magazine written by a teacher about sexy baby voice, because she was concerned that her girls were actually, as they went through, I think it was 5th or 6th grade, by the end of the year were sounding more babyish than they started the year with. And she said, you know, I think there's a problem here. And she began speaking to other teachers about this. And she's a beautiful writer, and I have her in the book. But it is an issue, and teachers are in a great place to make a difference. But so are parents, so are our religious communities, PTAs, and, you know, other mothers, you know, other fathers that can really help, you know, hold a girl through this transition and say, you know, you're beautiful because you are who you are. You know, you're not beautiful because you are a size 2 and 5'10", you know.
And are we starting early enough? Are they starting early enough in the schools? Are there enough programs in the schools? We see programs now like Shine On, which works with girls as young as 4th and 5th grade. They have mentors. They have college students and others who work with them on their self-confidence and self-image and self-esteem.
But what we don't have is a term for it, and that's what I'm providing, is a term. And so girls can say, hey, that's a girly thought. That's not me. I'm having a girly thought. And if that's a thought, then I can push it away. I can say, thank you for sharing. I can say, get lost. You know, but I don't have to take it on if I have a name for it. And that's my contribution to all these efforts, is to really name this. And if somebody else wants to give it another name, great, name it, because if we have a name, it helps us not internalize it. And that's my goal. Yeah, exactly, Jack. We get a handle on it. And that is so helpful to have a handle on it, whatever it is that we're dealing with.
But girls are different.
Girls, yes.
Than boys.
Yes. Isn't that nice? Ooh la la.
I love it.
And you mentioned you're already at work on your next book?
Yes, yes. I'm working on The Man's Guide to Girly Thoughts.
I mean, that makes perfect sense.
It does, because it's how for guys not to feel so frustrated when they come in and they are dealing with this woman, young girl they love, they care about, and she's all upset. Like, why is she upset? Because that's what guys will say. I don't know what I did, or I don't know what happened, or she just got off the phone with her friend and she's a mess. And it's to really explain all that. You know, how women, where guys may do the equivalent of an arm wrestle or jostle with each other. I have twin sons. I mean, they can really be physical. At times, they resolve it. They resolve it. Women, when we compete with each other, it's all under the table. It's all under the radar. It's very insidious. I have a new blog that just went up last night talking about an article that came out about girls bullying each other on Instagram. And it's all about image. And these are young girls. These are, you know, Instagram is like the new teen Facebook, if you will. And it's all about image. And so for their father to understand what's going on, you know, for their mother too, but, you know, to really kind of decode this. So therefore you can show love the way love needs to be shown to the people you care about and not judge them and not feel inadequate. You know, because I think a lot of times men feel inadequate supporting the women they care about when a woman is falling apart because of a girly thought.
I'm very impressed with this book.
Thank you.
And I'm looking forward to your guide to men and their thoughts. I think you're on a great track, and there's definitely a lot to be done here.
Thank you so much.
Dr.
Thank you.
Patricia
Thank you for your
O'Gorman,
interest.
thank you very much for taking the time to be with us.
Thank you. Thank you.